Radio TV phono nut here, and we have a circa 1946-47 4-tube Arvin metal cased Midget radio. Cosmetically it's in pretty good shape. It's got a few scratches and dings on them, nothing bad enough to make me want to repaint the cabinet, and we're missing the volume knob, but considering how common these sets are, it shouldn't be too terribly hard to find a replacement knob from a junker. And we still have our back cover in place, as you can see. If I had to choose between a missing back and a missing knob, I'd take the missing knob, because I think the knob would be easier to find. On many of these radios, the back cover ended up being MIA, because the owners would remove the back to service the tubes and then never put the back in place. As you can tell, the cord has been cut off, and if we look closely here, we can see some black carbon tracking here. So I think it's a pretty safe bet what happened. This cord was in bad shape. Somebody plugged the radio in, and then the fireworks took place, and then someone cut the power cord off. Looking at the bottom, it has our two original chassis mounting screws, so I really don't think this set's been messed with that much. Originally this would have had about a 25-foot antenna shank on it coming out the back here, but that's long gone. We'll have to replace that with something. This uses 4 octal tubes, a 12SA7 oscillator mixer, a 12SQ7 first audio and detector, a 50L6 audio output, and a 35Z5 rectifier. Of course, this is a superhet, but it does not have an IF amplifier stage. And generally speaking, these radios are considered city radios, which means they're mainly good for local stations only. However, considering what these are, they do perform better than one might expect. Now, I was reading an article where someone was talking about changing out the 12SA7 and converting it to a 12BA7 to give it more gain, but I don't know how well that would work with something like this, because you have no IF stage. So if you give it more gain, that's just going to seem to me like that would worsen your selectivity, because you don't have the IF stage there to provide a bandpass filter of 455 kilocycles. So I'll let them modify their radio if they want to. I think I'm going to leave this one all original. You might say, but you modify phonographs to use higher gain amplifiers, why would you not modify the radio for better performance? Well, it's simple. The only reason I modify the phonographs is because we can no longer get the proper 3-volt crystal cartridges that they need, so in order to make them useful, we have to modify them so where a lower output cartridge will work. However, this radio, we can still keep the existing design, and it will be still very much so useful. So with that said, let's get it apart and try to fix it up. Shouldn't be much to this. If the oscillator coil and antenna coil are good, it should probably be relatively easy to fix this. And with the back panel removed, we can more clearly see the burn mark that took place when the fireworks occurred. So I suppose the first order of business here is to replace the power cord, and looking at the chassis, it looks to be in pretty good shape, but I don't think we have any original tubes. They all appear to be an assortment of brands other than Arvin. And there's the underside of the chassis, which looks to be pretty much untouched. Alright, power cord replaced, radio plugged into the redneck dim bulb tester, which in this case is a 60-watt incandescent bulb, and if something shorts, the bulb will take the brunt of it. So let's turn the radio on and see if anybody's home. Okay, we had a dim glow in the bulb there. That's a good sign. That means our tube filaments are intact. Also indicated by the tubes lighting up. I suspect the filter capacitor is going to be dried out. Turn the volume up there. Alright, I'm not hearing anything. No hum, no nothing. Tubes are lighting up, but the bulb is not glowing at all. Alright, the rectifier tube doesn't appear to be fully seated. Let's see if that has anything to do with it. Alright, it appears that nobody's home, so it's time to go procure the voltmeter and do some checks and see if we can find out why nobody's home. Alright, radio is powered up. The DC, our DMM is set to measure DC voltage with the negative lead connected to B minus. And the first thing I want to do is check the plate and screen grid voltages on the audio output tube. So let's find those pins right now. Okay, pin 8, that's the cathode. We'll go ahead and check that. Probably nothing there at all. Okay, 4.7 volts, so we have a little something there. Alright. Alright, where is pin 5? Alright, pin 5 has 1.2 volts. That's the control grid, so that indicates this coupling cap is leaky. Either that or the tube is gassy. Now let's look at pin 4, which should be our screen grid. And we have 52 volts there. That's low, but at least we have something. Now let's look at our plate. We have 77 volts there, so that's good. That indicates that the primary winding of the audio output transformer is good, and it also indicates that our power supply is at least developing B plus voltage. Now let's move back to the 12SQ7, check the plate voltage there, and just work our way back. All right, I've got 39 volts on the plate of the 12SQ7. That's reasonably acceptable. Now let me touch the center pin of the volume control and see if I get any action. Alright, I'm getting no action at all out of the volume control, and we're getting nothing from the speaker, so I'm sure this filter capacitor is dried out, which means if we should be getting some hum out of the speaker. So I'm going to disconnect one of the secondary leads on this transformer, and we're going to ohm out the secondary winding of the transformer as well as the speaker and make sure it's okay. Now another way I could do this would be to take a 9-volt battery and just connect it across the primary of the audio output transformer, and if all is well I should hear a click in the speaker, but I don't have a 9-volt battery up here and I don't want to go find one, so I'm just going to unsolder this secondary winding, ohm out the speaker voice coil, and then ohm out the secondary winding of the audio output transformer. We have the secondary winding of the transformer severed from the speaker, so let's see what we have here. Okay, the audio output transformer secondary winding is good, and we know the primary winding is good because we have B plus on the plate of the tube. Now let's check the speaker. And the speaker looks to be the culprit. 6.3 megohms. Well, that's obviously not right. I would be expecting something like 3.2 ohms, something around those lines. So let's go get a test speaker and clip it in here and see what happens. If you've noticed, I have not replaced a single capacitor in here yet. And for those who don't know, I don't like to just go in and shotgun replace all of the capacitors in a piece of equipment. I like to troubleshoot it and at least see where we are before going hog wild with changing parts. Because what if I recap it and find something major is wrong with it that might be expensive or impossible to fix? Or what if I, in the process of shotgunning all of the caps, introduce another problem that I end up having to chase my tail to fix whenever I get through? So like I said, I'd rather just troubleshoot one the old-fashioned way and repair as needed. and then when it's all done, generally the caps will all be replaced, but that's only after I know that everything else is okay. Alright, let me go find a test speaker and clip it in here, and then we'll see what happens. Alright, we have the speaker connected, and I anticipate hearing some 60 cycle hum here in a few moments when the tubes warm up. Yep. And it sounds like I hear a station. Yes, I do.
Marketing name, know all the ins and outs of. For I played 14 years and he won 6 championships. What happened to those other? I can ask you one question.
Okay, so we know the electrolytic filter capacitor is bad, but since we hear stations, then that tells us that all the major organs are good, like the oscillator coil, the antenna coil, and the IF transformer. Alright, I have some electrolytic capacitors temporarily clipped into place. What? Why ain't it working? Because I had my clip lead on the wrong point. I didn't have it on B-.
There's some holes in that resin. It's not a clean resin. 6 for 6! Okay, but he didn't play 6 years. Yeah, but he played 14 years. What I'm saying is, it's been more consistent, better, consistently, year in, year out, putting up the minutes and everything else. Was Jordan better than...
Okay, this is doing pretty good because I only have a short clip lead on here for an antenna, and it's picking up 1450, which is relatively probably the weakest of the 4 stations we have. Okay. So that's 1450, and also we're still on the light bulb, so our voltage will be reduced. 1390. That sounds like 910. And there's 1010 that carries the same programming as 1450 when they're doing sports.
Jordan was responsible for a whole era. Best NBA player.
So I'd say this is not too bad, all things considered.
That's all I'm saying. Dirk Nowitzki by himself beat LeBron James in a super team. Just FYI.
So basically all this is going to need is a recap and a new speaker, but changing the speaker is going to be a bit of a challenge because the old speaker has a bracket on it for mounting the audio output transformer, and any new speaker we have is not going to have that provision, so we're going to have to come up with a creative way to mount the audio output transformer. So for right now, that's about all I'm going to do to this radio. At a later date, this will get a proper restoration, which will include all new electrolytic and paper capacitors. Any resistors that are out of tolerance will be replaced. Of course, we'll replace the speaker, do an alignment on it, and permanently attach an antenna wire, and this ought to be good to go. Just to let you know, there's probably not going to be any new videos for a while. Right now we're facing some health issues with my mother. I'm not going to get into all the details, but there's probably going to have to be some difficult decisions made in the coming days or weeks, so I'm not really going to have a lot of time to devote to electronics and videos, and quite frankly, with everything that's going on, it's kind of hard getting my head wrapped around electronics and videos anyway. But just wanted to put this up to let you know what was going on, and whenever I can get something new up, I will put it up. I've got some old video material that's 6 months to a year old. If I get a chance, I'll try to put some of that together and upload it, but just to let you know, don't be sitting by the computer looking for new videos from me on a regular basis, because it's probably not going to happen anytime soon. Alright, so we're going to remove all this mess. It's getting dark. I'm going to put all this back together and call it a day.